So I'm going to have to apologize in advance. There's really no way of getting through what I'm about to say without going full nerd beast mode here. So go ahead and buckle up, Buttercup. We're going to go into the technical details of this new press release by Google concerning the Android Automotive AI-powered EV road trip feature. As a nerd in the professional class and highly educated in nerdery, I speak in acronyms and terms which are not known by who I call normalies. So just to kind of frame this conversation, I figure we should take a step back and discuss exactly what we're talking about here. I'm going to go over the Android Automotive, Apple CarPlay, and Android Auto, just very briefly. All right, so this is...
At the light, turn right onto North Tryon Street.
Android Automotive. What this system provides is telemetry directly from the car. This is designed by the car manufacturer in collaboration with Google in order to pull real-time telemetry. And we have the state of charge right here. We have a path going to our destination. Should we need to have charging stops, it'll find the charging stops and it'll place them in there for you. You can talk about that a little bit longer later on in the video. But so this system is not what is being discussed on the press release that was done today. What they're talking about is Android Auto, which is a different product from Google, from this, which is Android Automotive. No, it's confusing, but just need to make that clarification real quick. So if you look right here, grayed out is Apple CarPlay, and right next to it is Android Auto, which is the sister app to CarPlay for people who have Android phones. I'm assuming people know this. And commonly you'll use a cable to connect, and then these icons will become illuminated where you could start accessing the features. There's also the ability to do it via a wireless connection. And then these icons will similarly light up and you'll be able to have the features in there. In the GM cars, this particular one is the Cadillac Lyriq. The icon will then appear down here. Now, GM has kind of moved away from having this integration available, but because we had a 2023 Cadillac Lyriq, it was a feature associated with this model year. And so we do get to keep those and they do work for us. Just to kind of clarify exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about Android Auto. Sawyer broke the news into X, where we were able to pick it up here on the Out of Spec Bits rooms, and had a couple of discussions. It was kind of interesting topic today on the party line, talking about the Google rolling out AI-powered EV road trip planning and battery predictions in Google Maps announcement. And Sawyer brought it into X. This actually links back to a Google blog post. So if you highlight this section right here and Google that, you'll be able to get a link to the Google blog post, which kind of goes into this in a little bit more detail. But let's just stick here on Sawyer's X post, where it's referring to the Google Maps feature for Android Auto. So a little bit of ambiguity here talking about Google Maps and Android Auto. Those are actually two different things, because I don't know about anyone else. I see a lot of people driving around with cars with little cell phone holders. Rideshare folk are kind of famous for that, because the native rideshare app is actually easier, from what I understand, for them in order to pick up their fares and navigate around than something like Google Maps or Apple Maps. And so they just use the cell phone. They don't use the in-dash navigation. They don't use a different type of navigation on their phone. They use the rideshare app, from what I understand, is the most common solution for them to just go through their day-to-day. So those cell phone holders, in my opinion, are not a small portion of the overall market of people using some kind of screen in order to do in-car navigation. A lot of people just dump the whole nav feature inside the dash and just go right to a cell phone. And that's kind of the whole concept of why Android Automotive and Apple CarPlay became a thing, because then you could just project it. It's a little bit safer, because then you don't need the little arm suction cup to your windshield or whatever. You can just project it right into the center console and have your phone of choice with all the creature comforts that you're familiar with be projected right in there and makes it a little bit, I guess, more safe, I guess is a way of describing it, with a scaled down number of features. Obviously, you can't be watching movies on Fandango for home or whatever while you're driving down the road. They skinny down the number of features and make it a little bit more contained and safe, and try to still give you the relevant applications that are necessary in order to get from point A to point B. So this to me is a little bit ambiguous if they're talking about Google Maps or Android Auto, and I suspect it's both, what we're going to be seeing here. So let's just go to that blog post really quick. Okay, so here I'm at Google, and I'm just going to paste in that sentence that I was referring to, and it brings up the first hit is, well, the second hit is Sawyer's post into X, but the first hit is the blog post that actually is referred back to by Sawyer. And there's an important bit of information, and I mentioned around the water cooler in the Out of Spec Studios, the virtual water cooler. We were having some internal discussions, and Out of Spec Dave said, "Hey, how the hell are they going to know your starting state of charge?" And I thought about it. I'm like, that's a damn good point. I have no idea how they're going to do it, because if you're just typing it into a phone, how does the phone link into the car system in order to figure out what his current state of charge is, in order to run all the mathematical calculations that are necessary in order to get you to your final destination with charging stops at appropriate places along the way? And the answer is here. It wasn't in Sawyer's post, but it's actually here, where set a destination to see your expected battery usage. Then add your current charge level to get recommended charging stops. So it actually takes user input in order to enter your existing state of charge in order for it to create the series of charging stops that it will take to get you to your final destination. So, and I'm assuming after you finish each one of these charging stops, you'll similarly have to re-enter your departure state of charge as you continue on your trip, and then it'll readjust. For the Android Automotive feature, which is actually baked into the center console and gets all the telemetry directly out of the car, I've had two cars, actually three, that have Android Automotive. That was the 2022 Volvo XC40 Recharge. I had a level 2 trim. It was a really nice car. It had built-in Android Automotive. That was my first exposure. Prior to that, we were driving a Tesla Model 3 2019 long range, and we had all the built-in nav features that everyone who is a Tesla owner before or currently has it available to them. And typically when I'm going on a business trip, if it's not too far, I prefer to drive instead of fly. Basically, if it's a 9-hour drive, I'm going to drive it instead of dealing with the hassle of the airport. And the way I do that is I'll go to a Hertz and I'll rent a Tesla. And so through the years, I've been in Teslas quite a bit, and I'm familiar with the nav system in Teslas and charting, obviously, the recharging stops. It's very good. I would say of the two, just this is my personal opinion, people can have their own personal opinions. My personal opinion is the Google is just slightly better with the guessometer estimation. So the math in order to get you to your final destination at a given state of charge, given your starting state of charge, has to do with a lot of physics and complicated math. There's the ambient temperature that it affects the material science and the battery chemistry of the battery and its ability to hold a charge and dispense a charge. There is wind, which is variable along the route. It could change directions and speed en route. There's elevation climbs and decreases also, which with the battery electric car, that really affects you quite a bit. And my personal opinion, one of the things that affects range the most as far as environmental factors is rain. I find when I hit a rainstorm, there's a certain amount of resistive friction that my car is pushing through the water. At least it seems as though, because routinely my efficiency decreases as I'm going in a rainstorm. Plus, there's the energy needed in order to run the wipers, so there is a little bit of energy being consumed there. But I think the actual physics of pushing through the water, the surface tension on the road, and also the rain droplets as you're pushing through them has some effect on efficiency as well. And so all those are factors that need to be calculated into a guessometer, coming up with an accurate number to reach your final destination. And so lots going on there. And I personally think the Google folks have perfected it just a little bit better than the Tesla folks. Not by much, it's very close. And Apple is far and away the worst. They are not even close. I think it's basically neck and neck between Tesla and Google. And if I had to give first place to someone right now, I would say it's the folks at the Google environment for the Android Automotive that's built in. So this feature, I think, is an extension of that, trying to take that that suite of technologies and try to give it to people that don't have the built-in Android Automotives in their car, in order to give them another option for route planning in an EV. So, and just let me very quickly mention about the Apple Maps, because I did look up what Apple Maps, because I don't routinely use it. I've used it a few times and I'm like, well, this doesn't work. And basically decided that it wasn't for me. But apparently on some cars, and let me just get these really quick, it is the Mustang Mach-E, Ford F-150 Lightning, the Porsche Taycan models 2021 and newer, and Toyota, all 2023 and newer battery electrics. Apparently have the ability for Apple CarPlay to pull telemetry from the car in order to obtain that initial state of charge necessary in order to create a route plan in an EV along with the charging stop. So in those cars, that is available. But what Google is saying, they're going to provide that feature to over 350 car models. And it says with Android Auto. So I mean, this is from Google. This is not someone misstating. They're saying with Android Auto. So that must mean that you must be able to project into the car's center console using Android Auto in order to obtain this feature. But it sure sounds like you could do it just on Maps too. So I guess here's the demonstration, and this is something I'm exceedingly familiar with. You have to update the battery information, is what it is talking about here. How much gets used, and then okay, here's a picture of the starting battery. Let me see if this is available in my Apple Maps. I'm going to pause the recording here and just pull this up real quick. Stand by. Okay, so this is interesting. In Google Maps, I just charted a trip to the Bright Angel Lodge in the Grand Canyon National Park, and there's this little hamburger icon that has the ability to select your vehicle. I'm going to select electric, and then I'm going to select my specific vehicle, make. I'm going to say a Chevrolet. All right, well, that took a while, but I'm convinced that what I'm looking at here is Android Automotive and not the Google Maps app. I've done some additional research, and it talks about how to go through this with Google Maps. And if Google Maps is built into your vehicle, so on and so forth. And where was it? Add electric vehicle, your plugs. Check estimated battery usage for this trip. Important, this feature is only available for compatible EVs on Google Maps version 25. I'm running version 26 on my iPhone. I did check the version. It is accurate, but right now I do not see that in the app. I think this only works if you project it through Android Automotive onto the screen, because the screen grab they have here is something I'm familiar with Android Automotive. And I'm guessing with Android Auto, it's very similar, but that is not what Apple Maps looks like. Apple Maps has a different UI interface. So someone else is welcome to chime in there, but I don't think this is available just on the iPhone app. It might be available on the Android app. I don't have an Android phone to check that on, but I think this is only, as they say, with Android Auto. So that's a little bit of a stipulation that we need to keep in mind. Anyway, it looks as though the battle for EV drivers' route planning is in full swing. And just so people know, this is not being given to us by Google out of the goodness of their heart. There is big money at play here. Just think of the implications if they are the go-to app for EV navigation. All kinds of things can be brought in there, monetarily harvesting metadata. And I was actually thinking that with Android Automotive, with the built-in telemetry into the car's functions, Google knows when a charging session is begun, how long it took to complete the charging session, the amount of kilowatts dispensed during that charging session. They could also put together a curve. They can get some telemetry from stations. So as a customer pulls up to a charging station, conceivably they can kind of rate that charging station. Was it the first time connection successful? Was the charging rate as advertised? I don't know if they could do price, but they could basically get a lot of information from that charging station and pipe that up. And one thing that Google does with excellence is gather information and turn it, or gather data and turn it into information. That's basically how Google became the powerhouse that it is. And if that was the case, they could have drivers steered towards charging stations that were rated more reliably from historical events, and basically that could start to steer people towards more reliable, and it could be a rating system. This is kind of Walter going down a future nerd utopia path, but conceivably that's something that could happen. But regardless, I do know that Google is not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. There's going to be some monetary value they have for this, but still, if it's the best way to accomplish a trip. And as I said, I've driven Teslas, I've driven cars with Android Automotive. My personal opinion, Android is slightly better, but at least arguably on par with what Tesla has available for the picking of charging stops. Now, obviously, the underlying charging stops are to be questioned, but you can select the network that you're stopping at in Android Automotive, and in this feature 2 to only be Tesla superchargers. So conceivably, that puts you right on par with Teslas, because if you want to have the reliability of the Tesla supercharger network, that is an option now available, assuming that you either have a J3400 inlet port or an adapter. Regardless, lots of cool things coming down the pike from Google, and us here in the nerdery section of the EV community will try to keep abreast of the coming changes and keep you all informed. Thank you very much for watching.